Welcome to the T. Edwards Morning Show from Portland, Oregon. Jennifer, the camerawoman here, and we're introducing Lee Madoff, our head distiller and founder. Hi Lee, good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good morning. It's a nice chilly morning here in Portland, Oregon. I just wanted to welcome everybody that's watching and hope that everyone is well and happy this morning and taking care of themselves. Like I said, it's a little chilly out here, so let's go step inside, which is a little bit warmer. This is the production floor here at Bull Run. I'll talk just a little bit about Bull Run and when we got started. It was in 2010 when my partners and I decided that we should open up a whiskey distillery. And so, as you can imagine, we're pretty much everything whiskey here. We do malted barley whiskey, we do corn whiskeys, rye whiskeys, all different types of whiskeys, and we're also really into barrel finishing or barrel aging. That's something that is a very creative aspect of distillation, is using different types of barrels. I'll explain more about that as we go through the tasting here. We do make one clear spirit, which is called Medoyev vodka. That's my family's name. My family's Russian, and my father's got free vodka for life, so we keep making vodka. We actually have a barrel-aged version of that called Starka. So pretty much everything we do here is touched by a barrel. Now, if you want to follow me around the corner, I'll show you our production floor and where we make everything, most everything. Don't mind everything here. This actually is a lot cleaner than it normally is during a production day. But walk on by, you can actually walk through here. These are some cases that are going to be going out. We do a lot of custom barrels for retailers and whiskey clubs around the country. That's one nice thing about barrel finishing projects, is that we can do these individualized barrels for people. In fact, this right here doesn't have any labels on it yet. We've got it bottled up. This is some of our rye whiskey that was finished in a tequila barrel. And so just give you an idea of the things that we do around here. Keep on coming down here. This is one of our 800-gallon pot stills. Had this built and designed here locally. They were designed really, we don't do any neutral spirits out of this. They were designed to do rums and brandies and in particular whiskeys. My name is Lee Madoff, and I'm going to be talking about a little about distillation now, and for people that don't know what distillation is all about. And then we'll get into doing a little sampling of some products too. That's the fun part. Now, for those of you who don't know what distillation is, I'll explain it as quickly as I can and as easy as I can. First of all, distillation starts with something that's been fermented or turned into alcohol to begin with. I have to distill and there's alcohol in it. And so in the case of whiskey, all whiskeys are made from grains, whether it's malted barley, corn, rye, or wheat. Those are the four main ones. But what's exciting about whiskey production these days is a bunch of different grains are being used. You can see oat whiskeys, triticale whiskeys, amaranth spelt. The craft industry in particular is really playing around with some really interesting things out there. Now, when I talk about making whiskey wash using grain, basically look at it as like a beer. But it's not the sort of beer you'd ever want to drink in a pint in a pub somewhere. It's for distillation specifically. So usually when I distill, my wash is about 8% alcohol, and it goes to complete dryness. And I said it's really much undrinkable as a beer solution. It's great for distillation. Now, when it's been fermented, it's dry, we'll put it in the still and distill it. We do a double distillation here, which is pretty much classic for most beverage productions with whiskeys. But the whole premise of distillation is that alcohol boils before water does. The whole premise of distillation. So we fill our still up with the wash, get it boiling, the alcohols boil, cross up through the column over to the condenser, and it comes out again at much higher concentration, higher proof. And everything that comes off the still is nice and clear, just like water, just like this. Now the first distillation, we bump up that 8% beer solution up to about 30%. On the final distillation, we bump it up to more like 75 or close to 80% alcohol. All the time coming off the still, clear, just like this. Now there's pretty much three general parts to distillation. We talk about in heads, hearts, and tails. The heads are the first thing that come off the still. Low boiling point alcohols, has a very solvent-like character, solvent-like nose to it. Pretty much undrinkable. You wouldn't want to use that. But the second part of the distillation is the hard cut. And that's the part of the distillation that's going to go down the path further and eventually into a glass somewhere. Now the hard cut, really what we're trying to do with that is trying to capture the essence of our raw material. In the case of our malted barley whiskey that we make, I want to capture the aromas and flavors from the fermentation and the big graininess and richness of the malt itself. Now, as the distillation goes on, you're going to get to the third part of the distillation, which is called the tails. Now, the tails are still a usable alcohol, but never on their own. They lose the brightness and focus and clarity of that hard cut. So the only thing that actually gets further down the process is the hard cut. Now, as you see, everything that comes off the still is clear. And, but this is kind of the raw product that we have. Now, to transform it, we need to put it into barrels. Now, barrels are really magical, and that's one reason why we really enjoy working with different types of barrels. Now, as you can see here, a couple samples. This is it's this whiskey. This is aged in a used bourbon barrel, and so it has a nice straw color to it, lemony color. This color right here, it's brown color. This is pretty classic for a brand new American charred oak barrel. And this little beauty here on the end, this is aged in a French oak wine barrel, and has a nice, magenta color to it, really deep and rich. The solvent character of spirits will get into that barrel and pull out all these characters and things. It's really wonderful. And so the magic of what we do is with barrels to really transform our products. Spirits, unlike beer and wine, are very, very stable. And so this product right here, if it's sitting in a tank or something else besides a barrel, nothing's happening to it. So there's a chance I have, the distiller, to really transform this and add more things to this product is by putting it into a barrel. Now, welcome again. My name is Lee Medoff, and for those of you that might be joining us right now, I'm just explaining, or have just explained a little bit about distillation for those that are familiar with it, and then we're going to talk about the importance of barrels. Now, I've got two samples of staves. This is a good example of what's inside an American oak whiskey barrel. Heavy char on this. This is actually number 3 char, and you probably can't see it, but it can flake off. It's burnt really intensely. This, on the other hand, is from a wine barrel. As you can see, it's been discolored from the wine itself, but if you look at this, there's no charring to it. This is probably lightly toasted, is all it was. Now, old barrels are either toasted or charred on the inside, and that does several things. One, it opens up the pores of the wood even more. It caramelizes things that are in the wood, which gives off some sweetness to the spirit or whatever's in that barrel. But it also gives you a whole different layers of aroma and flavor to the product. And that's going to give you all these different reactions, for your final product. Well, we're going to get into the fun part now. There's a sampling of the products. And so these are the 5 products that T. Edwards has in our portfolio for you. And I'll move these out of the way, and I'm going to sample through them relatively quickly. The first part that we have is our American whiskey. Now this is a 95% corn product aged in a used bourbon barrel. And once again, nice kind of straw color, really kind of deep corn color in fact. This is probably our lightest and sweetest product that we make. I would say if you want to put it in context, if you like Irish or Canadian whiskey, it's in that direction. Because everything else we do is very heavily influenced by the barrel. I'm going to take a sip of it to prove what I'm saying. Yeah, it has a very sweet aroma to it to begin with. Yeah, that sweetness comes out. There's really no barrel character to it at all. There's a real nice, rich corn sweetness. Very, very, very approachable. Very easy to drink. Now, as a really good example of what barrel finishing can do, the next whiskey is our American whiskey finished in Oregon Pinot Noir barrels, French oak barrels. And so these are both the same whiskey, but you can see right away there's a huge color difference. By putting it into the French oak barrels, we pull out the color of the wine that was in there. Also, French oak has a different elegance to it than American oak. It has coffee, chocolate, softer vanillins to it, much more, less aggressive flavors. But what it also does with the wine and the combination of the barrel, it also dries the product out. Whereas the original American whiskey is pretty sweet, this is going to be much drier, more like a tea-like tannin to it. But right away, the aroma is going to be completely different. You're going to get, like I said, those kind of coffee flavors come through, or coffee aromas come through from the toasting of the barrel. A little bit of fruitiness. You're really not going to be able to taste the wine necessarily, but you're going to get the color and kind of the tannic in the body from the wine. Completely different product. Wish you were here to try it side by side, and you can really tell the difference. But this is great sipping on its own. It's great in a cocktail. In fact, Jennifer, who's behind the camera right now, one of her favorite quarantine cocktails right now is a New York sour. It's actually a whiskey sour, but with a float of wine in it. If you haven't ever tried it, I guarantee you're going to enjoy it.
And we are still using Brooks wine barrels in these Pinot finish. We had a question from Sweet William about that. Are we still using Brooks barrels?
Yes, we still use Brooks barrels. I get wine barrels from a lot of different local wineries. Right now we're into Archery Summit barrels, but yeah, Brooks was the one that we're getting most of our barrels from, and I believe I could look back and see that what you're getting from what T. Edwards has is probably from Brooks, yes. Now we're moving on to our malted barley whiskey. Now this was the reason we started the distillery back in 2010. To make an American malted barley whiskey. There's no history of making malted barley whiskey in the United States. Corn and rye are the dominant grains since before the Revolution. And what's exciting about this is we get a chance to create a whole new style of American whiskey. This is not Scotch, it's not Irish, it's not Japanese. All my peers that are making American malted barley whiskey are trying to do something uniquely American. And so with this, we make this from 100% malted barley, but no peat, no smoke in it. It's just straight 100% malted barley, and it comes from southern Oregon, and it has a really beautiful kind of grainy, cereal, almost herbaceous note to it, just picking up in your hands. And that translates really well into the distillate as well as the wash itself. But it's also aged in new American oak barrels. That's very much part of the American tradition, and we didn't want to step too far away from that. No other whiskey-making country in the world uses new oak as much as Americans do, and that palate profile is very, very distinctive, and we wanted to stay within that. But on the end, what you'll find is on the finish, you'll find that where the malted barley is. You get that, like I mentioned, that very, very rich, grainy cereal character that comes through, a little bit of herbaceousness that comes through as well. But the big thing too with this is also the fermentation. We use ale yeast or beer yeast to do the fermentation. So you get a real nice kind of sweetness and the fruitiness coming through. Everything I said it was. This is probably our most complex product that we make here. There's a lot of different layers to it, and that was implicit. On to our bourbon. This has been our workhorse from the very beginning. This is the high rye content to it. Once again, also aged in new American oak barrels. The high rye actually dries this out a little bit more than you would get from a much higher corn bourbon. But saving for the end is our akavit. Now akavit is a Scandinavian spirit, and I really enjoyed this for years, and we've been making it for years. It has its rising surge of popularity right now. Now, there's really no rules in making akavit, but pretty much every akavit I've ever encountered is made with caraway and then some sort of herbal ingredient to it, usually a licoricey sort of ingredient. We use caraway, star anise, and coriander with this. And what I like about star anise is that it gives the illusion of sweetness without actually being sweet. This is not a liqueur, this is 90 proof, dry product. But we also age this in used barrels. Actually, I use Starka barrels. Well, great on its own, great with food. It's great in cocktails. In fact, you know, with the resurgence of akavit, cocktails are going crazy with it right now. If you want to go around the corner here, I'll show you where some of our barrels are stored. We have a facility south of here where we store a lot of our barrels and do our main bottling. But around the corner is where we keep all of our small batch, experimental things. This is some of our malted barley whiskey in Oregon oak. We're eventually going to have an all Oregon product. Malted barley from Oregon, the water from Oregon, of course being aged in Oregon, and of course an Oregon oak barrel. So that concludes our little tour behind the scenes here at Bull Run. My name is Lee, once again, and Jennifer is behind the camera here. I also wanted to say to everyone out there to be safe and be healthy, and stay tuned for T. Edwards' morning show. Thank you.